Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. In today's edition, I want to talk about Visma Lease bikes, Jonas Vingegaard, and I want to talk about Visma Lease bike making the Tour de France. We're getting down there now to the Tour de France, but he still has enough time since his crash on stage 4 of the Basque Country. Now, he has a punctured lung, he has a broken collarbone, and he has some broken ribs. I don't know how difficult right now, how complicated, his broken ribs are. But I crashed at about the same time. I crashed April 11th in 2014, and I still made the Tour de France. Not only did I make the Tour de France, but I was at the Tour of Slovenia that started before the Tour de France and was about 72 days from the time I crashed to the time I was racing at Tour of Slovenia, and I was still on pretty good form, finished top 20, I think top 15 at Tour of Slovenia that year, and then went on to start the Tour de France. Now, Visma Lease bike, Jonas Vingegaard, he's got one thing that I want to go over right now that's super important because he has a punctured lung, and I had a punctured lung in my crash in 2014 in Italy too. And they gave me this thing in the hospital. It's called a spirometer. This little device you suck some air into. And you try to get up as much oxygen into here. It expands the lungs. Jonas, if you're listening, this is very, very important tool right here in terms of what the doctors will tell you. I will tell you it's not important at all. And in fact, I will tell you to stay away from this, especially if you have severely broken ribs. Now, when I broke my ribs, they weren't fractures. They were spiral fractures and then compressed in. So they were complete breaks. They went straight in. Each rib literally dug the meat and the bones and the tendons off of the other ribs as they compressed in on each other like that. What happens is when they separated, once the ribs come back, they separate like this and you have the hole in the middle here. But because it was spiral, a twisted fracture like this before they actually broke and then compressed on each other, the bones had sharp edges all over the place. I spent about 7 days in the hospital, 3 or 4 in intensive care, then 3 or 4 in a private room. I was incredibly messed up. As bad as the breaks could get, I had them, okay? And I still made the Tour de France. But this is really important. When they gave me the spirometer, I was in the hospital room, out of the intensive care room, probably 5 days after the crash, and the nurse comes in, the physio nurse, she comes in and she wanted me to try the spirometer. I tried it. It was incredibly painful. I mean, I felt pain down in my lung area there that was intense. And anytime throughout my career, whether if I'm stretching, whether if I'm trying to recover from crashes, whether if I'm doing anything, whenever you feel incredibly sharp pain, I don't mean pain of pushing on the pedals. I mean sharp, sharp pain. You know you're doing something wrong. I looked at the physio nurse and I said, there's no way, this hurts too much, I'm not going to do it. She jumps up all over the room. She's yelling and screaming at me about how I have to do it, I have to do it. I looked at her and I called her a witch and told her to get out of my room. The doctor came in a few hours later. He tried to explain what the spirometer here does and about how it helps your lungs to expand. When your lungs expand, it pushes the fluid out so that you don't get pneumonia in the lungs. I told the doctor, I'm a professional athlete. I'm going to be on my bike as soon as these ribs start to somewhat come back together. I'm going to be on my home trainer, probably going to take about 10 days, maybe 15, 20 at the worst, and I'm going to be on the trainer riding. That's going to increase my lungs. That's going to get rid of the fluid. That's going to cause me to sweat, cause the body to warm up. It's going to get rid of those extra fluids that's floating in your body places. And he said, I still want you to do it. I said, no, I won't do it. This is the Italian doctor in the Italian hospital. I said, no, I won't do it. I went back to my Italian apartment where I was staying in Como, and the team doctor, he came over and looked at me, and he's checking out my list of injuries and stuff. He's reading it all off to me, and he says, Chris, you got a broken shoulder back here in the back, the scapula or something he called it, back here. And I said, oh, I knew that was broken, but they never told me. So I had broken shoulder. I had 4 spiral compressed on each other, fractured ribs with sharp edges. I had a punctured lung, and the punctured lung required like a hose like this that they cut into my side here and stuck the hose straight into the lung. And I was recovering from all that. And I still made the Tour de France. But The doctor, my Italian doctor, not the Italian doctor at the hospital, he told me to use this. The nurse told me to use this. And my team doctor told me to use this. And I said, no, I won't do it. It hurts too much. There's something wrong when I do that. Then I flew back to here, to Bend, Oregon, where I'm shooting Beyond the Coverage at my house here. And I flew back home. And I started training, I think about 14 days after the accident, on the home trainer. Started training on the home trainer. But before that, I was at my doctor's here in Bend, Oregon. My doctor, he's a lung specialist, he said, Chris, you need to use a spirometer. I said, no, that hurts too much. He kept drilling me on it. Finally, I said, okay, I'll use the spirometer, but it hurts too much. Every time I use it, doc, there's something wrong going on with this thing in my lungs every time I use it. He said, no, you need to use it. It'll push all the fluids out. You won't get pneumonia. I gave him the same story that I gave the Italian doctor in the Italian hospital, my Italian doctor on Lamprey, and of course that wicked nurse that was trying to get me to use this to begin with. And he goes, no, it's a good thing. You should use it. I said, how much? How much should I use it then? And I'll go ahead and start using it. He goes, well, if you're watching, sitting on the couch, you're recovering, and you're watching some commercials, go ahead and use it through a couple of the commercials. You'll be good a few times a day. So I did. I used this thing, went on to the trainer. I trained that day, and I get off the trainer, and I check my heart rates while I'm sitting on the couch after about, I don't know, hour and a half training ride, let's call it, on the home trainer in the garage. It was getting a little bit warm here in Bend, Oregon. So when I get back on the couch, I'm sitting on the couch and my heart rate's still sitting 65 and 70 heartbeats. I thought, wow, that's really weird. That's strange. It should not be that high after such an easy workout on the trainer. But okay, I've gone through a lot of trauma. I spent a week in the hospital in Italy. I was in intensive care unit. A few days afterwards, just the same story that I told you, I'm thinking through my head. That's what you should be doing as a professional athlete with an injury. Always rethink stuff that happened in the past, whether if it's in the race, whether if it's your injury, whatever's happening throughout your course of the week and the 2 weeks and the month before, you always think about. As I'm sitting on the couch, I'm rethinking, okay, why is my heart rate so high? It shouldn't be that high. I've never come off of an injury, and I've had 3 broken bones, broken legs, broken leg, right leg, left leg, broken hip, broke my wrist here. I've had breaks throughout my whole career of 25 years professional. I'm familiar with broken bones. So I'm thinking, like, this is strange. Okay, it's a little warm. It's my first day training. The house is sitting at about 75, 80 degrees, so it's getting a little warm. So I turned the AC on, I took a nap. Went upstairs, napped for about 2 hours, got up from the nap, and my heart rate's still sitting at 65. That feels really strange when you're never sitting at 65 at calm moments in your life, and all of a sudden you are. So I call up the hospital, and I call the doctor. I said, something's wrong. My heart rate's 65. He kind of giggles at me. 65 sounds pretty normal. Chris, you'll be fine. You got off the trainer a few hours ago, you'll be fine. I go, I don't think so. Something's wrong. He goes, okay, I'll schedule a x-ray for your lungs, and we'll get that done. Drive over, do the x-ray. They get me in there, they get me out, they go, we'll give you a call when everything's fine. So I'm walking around, getting ready, doing some shopping. I think I'm at Target or something, and the phone rings. Pick up the phone, nurse is on the other end. He's like, you need to come in right now. You have a pneumothorax, you have punctured your lung again, and it's 80% collapse. We need to see you right now. Now, remember, before they weren't panicking at all, right? So I calmly responded to him. I said, do I have time to get lunch? He said, no, you have to come in right now. So I come in right there, and we do the procedure that same day. When I'm climbing up onto the operating table there where the surgeon, the doctor's going to do the work and he's going to put in another line down my chest here, another tube down my chest into my lungs. Once they push the tube into your lungs, it equalizes the pressure in your lungs and allows your lungs that are all getting squished up like this because they're collapsing. Once you equalize the pressure up there, they'll start to expand open, and then they hope wherever the punctured lung is, it'll naturally heal itself, and then they'll pull out the tube, then everything will be fine, and you'll be set and ready to go for the Tour de France, right? Okay, so if you're Jonas Vingegaard, and you have incredibly punctured lungs, and you have spiral fractures and sharp rib fractures sticking out all over the place, the problem why you don't want to use a spirometer, and the doctors won't tell you this because they don't know. It says on the back, it says, do not use if broken. What they mean is you can't use it if you're broken. That's the way I take that now. So be careful, Jonas Vingegaard. If you've already punctured your lung, which we know, if they told you to use a spirometer, if your ribs are so fractured that you have sharp tips on your rib bones, When you expand your lungs by using the spirometer, it will expand your lungs to the point to where it'll catch the sharp bone that's still there on your ribs, and that will puncture it a second time. That's what the doctors don't know. And what the doctors don't really know is they put everybody into the same box. And they don't know with a professional athlete, your lungs throughout the years of training have expanded and learned. They have expanded so much that they fill up every cavity inside the body, versus a normal person, lungs will have space around the ribs inside the body, where if you're just trying to get it to expand, because when they expand their lungs, they bring it up to about 25 milliliters there of oxygen, versus we're going to bring it up to 5,000 because we have a bigger lung capacity. And because we have that bigger lung capacity, the edges of the lungs are getting closer to those sharp edges on your broken ribs. You will puncture it a second time. So let me save you 2 weeks right now of pain and suffering and another trip back to the hospital. Jonas Vingegaard, do not use the spirometer. Now, one more thing before I go, because the video is getting a little long, and that was more medical thing here on Beyond the Coverage, but hopefully you guys will understand, and hopefully someone will send this video to Jonas Vingegaard, because I want to see him start the Tour de France at 100% form. I still started, and I had about 85 days between my crash and the Tour de France starting. He had about 87 days, but I got delayed 2 more extra weeks with that second punctured lung before I could start training. And so Jonas Vingegaard, I believe, assuming he has a normal puncture, I had the craziest breaks you could possibly have in the ribs and still made the Tour de France. So I believe unless he's got something that needs to go in there and have some kind of strange operation on, he can recover in time for the Tour de France. Can he be 100%? I can't tell you that. Nobody can. But he's going to have, about the time he starts riding his bike, at least 2.5 months worth of training. I think Jonas Vingegaard can arrive at the Tour de France if he doesn't have any delays in his recovery, if he doesn't have a second punctured lung, if he doesn't have something catastrophic. I believe he can arrive at the Tour de France something very, very close to 100% form. But I think Visma Lease bike, when we look at it with Jonas Vingegaard, I could never guarantee he's going to be 100%. Neither could Jonas, neither could his doctors, neither can Visma Lease bike as a team. So that means the big guy, Wout van Aert, number 5 on my list, and still number 5. And guys, when you're commenting with Mathieu van der Poel, please don't bring up the cyclocross results. I don't care about an hour event. I am a road cycling snob. I do not care about a 1-hour cycling event, and I will not give Mathieu van der Poel any credit for winning 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 world championships in the cyclocross course in terms of bumping him over Wout van Aert. What I can give Wout van Aert credit for is last year, stage 6 of the Tour de France, when they're in the race meeting in the bus and they said, Wout, we want you to go over the Col de Aspen, the Col de Tourmalet, and we want you to wait for Jonas Vingegaard, and we want you to pull and drop the whole breakaway guys you're with of climbers on the Col de Aspen, the Col de Tourmalet. Then I want you to sit up, go back, grab Jonas, pull Jonas all the way in the Col de Cam Roche, the last and final climb of that stage 6 of the Tour de France, Cambasque. Once you pull him into there, you're done with 5 kilometers to go, because we still want you to go halfway up that climb before you can drop Jonas off and have him try to win the 23 Tour de France. That's why Wout van Aert is number 1. You cannot be Mathieu van der Poel and win 1 or 2 more races than Wout van Aert does and then get dropped on all the mountain stages of the Tour de France. That same one, he was dropped in the break, I believe. And so if you're Mathieu van der Poel and you want to jump over Wout van Aert, you got to win every classic out there, and Wout van Aert can't win any. Or you got to start learning to climb a little bit better. You're never moving up to top 5. Those are the facts. But let's get back on topic here. If Visma Lease bikes, Jonas Vingegaard cannot be granted 100% form. If it can't be a given that he's showing up 100%, they got to bring the big guy Wout van Aert, because he's the only guy on Visma Lease bike right now on their 8 roster. He is the only guy that if you bring into the Tour de France 100% on form, that he can salvage something out of the Tour de France if Jonas Vingegaard cannot win, because Visma Lease bike are expected to win the Tour de France. And anything less than that, the only thing the sponsor is going to be willing to accept is Wout van Aert winning his 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 stages of the Tour de France that we know Wout van Aert can win. And that's why, guys, he's number 5. Don't even bring in Mathieu van der Poel. Being in front of Wout van Aert is ridiculous. But Visma Lease bike, when you look at their roster, they're certainly hurting for July. Jonas is questionable whether or not if he's going to be 100%, but he'll make it. Sepp Kuss isn't riding good. Jan Tratnik's been crashing hard. Thies Benoot has been crashing hard, but he looks like, on the roster of 8 right now, he looks like the only rider that is still riding at his 100% capability at this moment. Because when you look at the rest of the crew, Matteo Jorgensen is sick. Dylan Van Barley's been sick. Christophe Laporte has not been riding good because he's been sick. I mean, the only hope they have right now for Visma Lease Bike is that Jonas can recover. And out of the 8 guys that are on the roster, somebody's got to get bumped because the big guy, Wout van Aert, has to show up and save the day again for Visma Lease Bike. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next edition of Beyond the Coverage real soon.